Chapter 83. This time, I say no. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Children should stop prying into adults' matters. Patting Izuna's head as he leaned over, Uchiha Jin said with a straight face that he didn't know how long he would have to support this brat. The worst-case scenario was that he would have to let this brat take care of him until he died. When Senju Atama heard Uchiha Jin's words at the dining table, he did not choose to argue with him anymore. He got up obediently and went to the kitchen to bring out 2 sets of bowls and chopsticks and put them on the table. Okay, stop showing off and eat first. Uchiha Jin helplessly pushed his older cousin who was stuck on the spot, urging him to take a seat quickly. The frowning Uchiha Madara couldn't resist his cousin, so he pulled out the chair in the corner and sat on it. Cousin, eat more. Picking up a piece of tofu and putting it in Uchiha Madara's bowl, Uchiha Jin raised his head and asked curiously. Are you still fighting recently? Well, the Thousand Hands clan has received assistance from the Whirlpool clan, and the situation on the battlefield is very anxious. After blowing a few mouthfuls of hot tofu, Uchiha Madara carefully swallowed it and said. Uzumaki clan, that the memory of Uchiha Jin's death was awakened again, and a figure with a sturdy figure and a handsome face appeared in his mind. Did the Uzumaki clan join the war so early? I don't know what happened to Mito. That's right, the leader of the reinforcements is Uzumaki Hanamichi, the young leader of the Uzumaki clan. That guy is very strong in physical skills and is not weak in sealing skills. My elder brother fought him a few times and didn't get any advantage. Izuna, who was glaring at Senju Atama, turned around and complained to Uchiha Jin. That guy is also strange. Every time he fights against us Uchiha, he always asks a strange question first. What's the problem? Uchiha Jin asked curiously. When he met that guy before, he didn't have this quirk. Whenever he meets an Uchiha, he will ask, do you know a curly-haired Uchiha? Ha ha ha, don't you think it's weird? Izuna knocked on the table and laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, what a weirdo. Uchiha Jin laughed a few times in agreement, then lowered his head silently, hiding his merit and fame. Stare__ Senju Atama beside him. Cousin, how did you get this mark on your head? It looks very handsome. Izuna, who was in her 2nd year of middle school, noticed the diamond-shaped mark on Uchiha Jin's forehead and said with envy. Just like the heavenly eye, open one for me too. The only thing I don't want to be said is that I am not a spiritual guy. Haha, I'll teach you when I have time, and I'll help you get a tattoo by the way. By the way, why did you come back so early this time? I remember the last time we started the war, you went away for half a year before you came back. This time you left not even a month ago, why are you back? Uchiha Jin, who changed the subject, looked at the 2 brothers and asked. The 1,000-armed Buddha is dead. Uchiha Madara, who put down his chopsticks, stared straight at Senju Atama, who was lowering his head to eat, and slowly told the breaking news. Crack! The chopsticks in Senju Atama's hand broke at the sound, but he still lowered his head as if nothing happened. The quality of these chopsticks is not good. Go and get a new pair. The sharp-eyed Uchiha Jin saw the liquid dripping from the cheek of the kid next to him, and asked him to go out and be alone for a while. Senju Atama stood up and walked to the kitchen, his thin back trembling slightly. Why bother? Knowing that this news was specifically aimed at Senju Atama, Uchiha Jin sighed, shook his head and said to the initiator, Uchiha Madara. Keeping him alive is for your sake, cousin. If you let him live such a stable life, how can the clan members who died on the battlefield rest in peace? Uchiha Madara, who had experienced too many deaths, turned cold again. He had always criticized Uchiha Jin's attitude towards this remnant of the 1,000 Hands. War never starts because of one person's ideas, nor does it end because of one person's death. Uchiha Jin raised his head, narrowed his dead fish eyes, and said to Uchiha Madara. The life or death of a child cannot affect the course of the war. A world that cannot understand each other will always have disputes. After saying this, Uchiha Madara no longer cared about Senju Atama's affairs, and instead began to think about what Uchiha Jin had just said. This older cousin is getting harder and harder to fool, he has almost finished the poisonous chicken soup for this kid. After drinking and eating, Uchiha Madara, who still looked thoughtful, dragged the reluctant Azuna home, leaving Uchiha Jin to clean up the mess alone. These two guys have learned bad things. They used to take the initiative to clean up for me, but now they run faster than rabbits one by one. After finishing cleaning up, Uchiha Jin walked to the door of the Senju Atama and gently knocked on the door a few times. There was no movement for a long time. He sighed and said outside the door, "Kid, don't think too hard." Crunch. The door was pushed open, and Senju Banma, with red and swollen eyes, raised his head, looking pitiful, and his voice was sniffling. "When can I go home?" "Let's wait until the battle is over." Seeing the little ghost's appearance, Uchiha Jin's heart softened. No, no, no. How could I be bewitched by a young man? Uchiha Jin quickly shook his head, cleared away the strange thoughts in his mind, and gave Senju Atama a promise. "Father is dead, and there is no reason for you to keep me. Just kill me." Hearing Uchiha Jin's promise of time, Senju Atama smiled miserably. The war between the two clans has been going on for thousands of years and has never ended. This promise is empty talk. Bang! The righteous slap fell on the head of the little devil who looked like he wanted to die. Uchiha Jin calmed down his restlessness and spoke slowly. "You kid, you have been with me for so many years, but you have not learned a positive attitude towards life. You have only learned some emo." Stretching out his hand to calculate the time, Uchiha Jin lowered his head and assured the indignant Senju Banjian. "It will be soon. The war will end in about 10 years. I will send you home then." Looking at Uchiha Jin, who was so sure of what he said, Senju Banjian covered his head and pursed his lips and did not continue to speak. He had heard such words countless times. It was obviously a lie to children. "Didn't you make an appointment with Julie to play together? Take this money and buy whatever you want when you go out." Seeing the quiet little devil, Uchiha Jin was relieved, and then he took out a handful of money and stuffed it into the hands of Senju Banjian, letting the little devil spend money to relieve his worries. After comforting the emo kid, Uchiha Jin felt exhausted and lamented that it was too difficult for him. Now he had to raise this kid as his son and shoulder the responsibility of a father before getting married. He went back to the room and lay on the bed. Now only a good sleep could relieve the inexplicable fatigue in his heart. Just as he was about to fall asleep, the long silent system flashed a glimmer, and then a familiar voice sounded in his mind. "Ding, the host's age has reached 30 years old, and the system is about to start. Do you confirm to start it?" Uchiha Jin was awakened by the sudden voice. Hearing the prompt sound in his mind, he was surprised and did not choose to start it rashly. Recalling that when he just crossed over, he rashly chose yes and was hurt by the tasks assigned by this semi-finished system, the medieval system, which is as ancient as the Warring States period, was always erasing and erasing, making him nervous all day long. Now he has another chance to choose. He has suffered so much that he naturally cannot be fooled again. No, 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 no. This time, he will never be fooled by this shitty system again. The host's strong disgust is detected, and the system enters a cooling down period. The system can be unlocked after completing tasks. During the cooling down period, the host's age is punished to remain at 30 years old. Is there such a good thing? The awakening system of the ancient times during the Warring States period is very reasonable, right? Chapter 84: A Simple and Long-Lasting Life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing the feedback from the system, Uchiha Jin quickly came to the system space in his mind. As soon as he entered, he found that the slot machine on the system board was missing. It was a prop that he used to draw mission points, and now it was eaten directly by the system. He was so frightened that he quickly turned his head and looked to the other side. The heart steel treasure chest was still playing the BGM noisily. After trying to click on it, the response was as usual. Then he breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the heart steel treasure chest was not there after the system was idle. Affected, to sum up briefly, the system seems to have been taken offline by him. Now it is no longer possible to obtain points through system tasks. However, the Heart Steel treasure box as a gift package for beginners has been retained, so the backyard refreshes random skills every day, should also exist. I looked up at the system's gray taskbar. There was still only the task Rescue Senju Atama hanging on it. I recalled the system prompts. The system enters cooldown, and you can unlock it by completing the cumulative tasks. Uchiha Jin thought about it, and suddenly his eyes lit up. If the task mentioned here was the first task he accepted, as long as he did not complete it, the system would never send other tasks. A bold speculation emerged from his mind. As long as he does not complete the task of rescuing Senju Atama, the system will continue to freeze. In the future, the system tasks that are frequently erased will no longer appear. Moreover, during the system shutdown period, he will remain 30 years old until this task is completed, but the current situation is that as long as he wants to, he can never complete it. Uchiha Jin, achieve immortality and achieve immortality. The excited Uchiha Jin immediately turned over and jumped up from the bed, pacing around the bedroom. As long as nothing happened to the brat Senju Atama in the future, not only would he not die, but time would not cause him any harm. It was a mistake to attach the metabolic accelerator to this Senju Atama by accident. The bonus of 2 points of health points a day can make this kid live to the end of the world. Just when Uchiha Jin was immersed in the joy of immortality, in a dark dungeon, an old man slowly opened his eyes. Former dungeon number 0. Young Liang, I don't have much time. Hasn't that guy Uchiha Taijima taken action yet? That his gray eyes exuded bursts of death. Uchiha Yao, who had entered his twilight years, could feel that his end was approaching, but 6 years had passed, and Uchiha Taijima still had no intention of taking action. Uchiha Taijima has been focusing on his son in the past few years and has no intention of decrypting the seal. The old jailer with black light in his eyes stood in the dark corner and replied in a hoarse voice. Where's Jin Uchiha? Thinking of his eldest grandson who had not visited him for several years, Uchiha Yao said with an indifferent expression. That kid hangs out in the dungeon every day, mingling with the prisoners, and doesn't know what to think. Meng Liang, who had been monitoring Uchiha Jin for some time, answered aloud. He was very puzzled by Uchiha Jin's behavior. We can't delay it any longer. Bring him to see me. Uchiha Yao, who was about to reach the limit of his body, frowned. If he dragged it on any longer, there would be no hope of revenge. He had to drag Uchiha Taijima to be buried with him before he died. Yes, with inexplicable emotions in his eyes, Yi Liang lowered his head and turned into a puddle of black mud and blended into the shadows on the ground. Cousin, what happened? Uchiha Jin was so excited that he didn't sleep well the next day with big panda eyes. As soon as he got up, he was summoned by Uchiha Taijima and came to the Patriarch's office with yawning. There is a mission, and I wanted to ask if you would like to participate. Holding a document in his hand, the 42-year-old Uchiha Taijima raised his head and said to him in a questioning tone. What mission? Looking at his older cousin, Uchiha Jin raised his eyebrows. In the past few years, Uchiha Taijima's thoughts have been entirely on the Uchiha Madara brothers. Even without perception, it can be seen that their energy is not as good as before. Once upon a time. This is the mission content, take a look. Taking the document from Uchiha Taijima, Uchiha Jin read it carefully for a while, then raised his head and asked in surprise. Who is this unknown person? Although he knew the identity of this person in his heart, he still showed appropriate doubts. Seeing that his expression didn't seem to be fake, Uchiha Taijima's eyes flashed with a complex and regretful look, and he explained. The Nameless One was once a war weapon cultivated by our clan. It was ambushed and sealed by Senju and Sarutobi's men when they were on a mission many years ago. Since then, his whereabouts are unknown. Seeing Uchiha Jin's unfamiliar look, Uchiha Taijima sighed secretly and continued. However, a few years ago, I captured a senior member of the Sarutobi clan and tortured him to find out the nameless sealed place. However, I was having a fierce fight with the Senju clan at that time, so I didn't spend any effort to find it, but... Uchiha Taijima took a sip of the tea on the table and moistened his throat with a bit of joy in his eyes. The guy in the Thousand-Hand Buddha room actually died of illness. The Thousand-Hand clan's frontline has shrunk. The clan is now running for the new clan leader. We can just take advantage of this gap to find Wu Ming and make him a great help to our clan. Who else is participating in this mission? Uchiha Jin, who handed back the mission document, asked curiously, wouldn't he be the only one to go on such an important mission? Just you and me can go. Did Uchiha Taijima trust him so much that he only took him to carry out this mission? You go and prepare, and we'll leave tomorrow. After making the arrangements, Uchiha Taijima waved his hand, indicating that he could leave if he was fine. Coming out of the clan leader's office, Uchiha Jin saw that it was still early, so he strolled around and came to the dungeon where he worked. Brother Lucha, I'll trouble you today. I'll go to the dungeon to inspect. He clocked in at the office, said something to Uchiha Lucha who was writing furiously in the documents, and Uchiha Jin went directly to the cell to check in. This guy. Uchiha Lucha, with a bitter face, raised his head, looked at Uchiha Jin's leisurely back, and sighed. He really got on a pirate ship, in the #1 dungeon. Your fist is strong and powerful, and the wind of your fist is as swift as the roar of a tiger or a dragon. I am ashamed of myself. Uchiha Jin showed a fearful look on his face, put his hands on his chest, and praised the person in front of him with a somewhat embarrassed panting. A prisoner who had just been captured in the dungeon looked at his hands in disbelief. When did he awaken his innate power to be able to punch this Uchiha clan member who looked difficult to mess with several meters away? It's done. With his confidence soaring, he felt that he was possessed by the protagonist, and was ready to take advantage of the victory to give this Uchiha clan member a fatal blow. Unexpectedly, the other party suddenly laughed happily, then stood up and turned around to leave. Don't run, take my punch. Hearing the noise behind him, Uchiha Jin seemed to remember something, and he didn't even bother to open his Sharingan. He turned his head and glanced at the prisoner with a bloodthirsty look on his face. Narikunoing technique, the prisoner who was swinging his fist seemed to be strangled by the throat, and he lay on the ground with a terrified look and struggled. TSK, that curly-haired bastard is acting and bullying the newcomers again, what a bad taste. An old prisoner who has been imprisoned here for a long time looked at Uchiha Jin's behavior with cold eyes and said disdainfully. That's right, he comes to bully people every day, and he doesn't get bored. The prisoners in another cell also echoed. These people have been used by Uchiha Jin to fight, and they are all accustomed to his weird behavior. Now the old prisoners don't fall for his tricks, and it's getting harder and harder to fight. He can only cheat the newcomers to barely make a living. In the corridor of the dungeon, Uchiha Jin, who successfully fought, hummed a little song and was about to slip away. Suddenly, he felt his anus tighten, and a familiar voice came from behind. Uchiha Jin, Grandpa is looking for you. Chapter 85 The Little Devil Who Rebelled Against Tiangang. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Turning his head helplessly, the old jailer Zi Liang, whom he had not seen for a long time, stood on the black shadow behind him. His grey body looked very strange and scary in the darkness, and the black glimmer in his eyes made people shudder. Now, Uchiha Jin sighed in his heart. He had almost forgotten all about this Lao Dan. Why did he come to his door at this time? He nodded expressionlessly, turned into a ball of black mud without any explanation and rolled Uchiha Jin into it, and then disappeared into the darkness of the corridor. Uchiha Jin, who was wrapped in the black mud, rubbed his chin with a headache. He really didn't want to have anything to do with the desperate Yi Liang and the crazy Uchiha Yao. I originally thought that after 6 years of no contact, this Lao Dang would have kicked off his legs long ago. I never thought that he was still alive. Uchiha Jin, who was thinking about whether to give Amaterasu to the enemy, found that the scene around him changed before he could do anything, and he once again came to the abandoned dungeon where Uchiha Yao was imprisoned. The old man who used to be relatively strong was now hunched over, with frighteningly deep wrinkles on his face. His only remaining eye was also stained with a faint grey color, and his whole person was full of death, as if he was about to die in the next second. I'm dying. When the old man saw Uchiha Jin being brought, he raised his head with some difficulty, his hoarse voice without any emotion. Ahem, I have had a premonition of my own death, but I am not willing to accept it. I have not yet witnessed the demise of Uchiha Taijima with my own eyes. But there's nothing I can do. I can't beat Uchiha Taijima. When Uchiha Jin heard that the old man was beginning to suffer, he spread his hands to show that he was helpless. Has that mission already started? That the old man ignored Uchiha Jin's rogue behavior. He changed the topic and mentioned the mission. What mission? Uchiha Jin's heart skipped a beat, but he didn't show it on his face. Instead, he looked like he didn't understand. You don't have to pretend to be stupid. You have already told me that Uchiha Taijima will share that mission with you today, right? That the old man did not care too much about Uchiha Jin's performance, but was more concerned about the progress of the mission. Is it useless? Glancing at the old jailer standing silently in the corner, Uchiha Jin felt a little wary. This guy was actually able to hide under his nose and eavesdrop on his conversation with Uchiha Taijima, without even noticing it. Yes, Uchiha Taijima told me about that mission today. Seeing that he could not get away with it, Uchiha Jin had no choice but to confess the matter, and then mentioned it casually. This clone of you has been lurking next to Uchiha Taijima to deliver information to you. Don't try to trick me. Gung Liang is my will clone. He knows everything about me. I know everything that happens outside. Uchiha Yao said proudly, as if everything was under his control. Do you really tell everything you know? Glancing vaguely at the sculptural old jailer, Uchiha Jin complained in his heart that this thing is definitely not good enough, and he is still playing around with this old guard until now. This is our last chance. When the time comes, I will arrange for Zongliang to go with you. You will never be able to discover his hiding methods. At that time, you only need to control the nameless person released. The three of you will attack Uchiha Taijima. Death without a burial place. Uchiha Jinju unexpectedly asked the filial son wearing a vest to form a team with him. Uchiha Jinju refused. Now he has no means to suppress the opponent. As a creature of yin and yang, the filial son could not be completely eliminated by ordinary means. He only regretted that he was not a half-sugar ordinary person who could hold Heiju in his arms with a knife. Okay, I'll try my best. Uchiha Jin, who had no energy at all, said perfunctorily that he had to find a way to make this old man sober up, otherwise he would be fooled and unable to find his way, and he would drag this old bone around and think about revenge every day even though he is so old. Revenge or something. After finishing his instructions, Uchiha Yao sat back on the chair, closed his eyes and signaled to see the guest off. The man beside him rolled up Uchiha Jin again and sent him out of the dungeon. What a troublesome thing. Uchiha Jin, who finally got stuck on the longevity bug, has encountered all kinds of troubles these days. Sometimes he really wanted to take Senju Atama and hide in a deserted place, but he finally managed to get through. He wanted to meet all the interesting characters in the original work. Putting aside the little thought of escaping, Uchiha Jin scratched his curly hair and strolled on the street of the Uchiha clan, when he suddenly saw two familiar figures from a distance. Senju Atama got together with a girl with long purple hair. The two of them squatted at a stall and picked something. Out of curiosity, Uchiha Jin quietly walked over to find out. Sister Governance, don't you think this doll is cute? Senju Atama held a green doll with excitement on his face and tried his best to hold it to the purple-haired girl next to him. However, judging from the shape of this doll, the girl might not like it. After all, no girl would like caterpillars. It's quite cute. This bug will definitely turn into a beautiful butterfly. The purple-haired girl did not show a look of rejection as he imagined. Instead, she took the doll with a gentle look, looked at it carefully and said, unexpectedly, the purple-haired girl also liked the caterpillar doll, which made Uchiha Jin, who was hiding aside, lament that birds of a feather flock together. Boss, here are two. Seeing that the girl's aesthetics were the same as his own, Senju Atama waved his hand and took pictures of two of them, the main one being rich and willful. Okay, Sheng Hui, 14,000 taels. The boss was so happy to see big business coming that he couldn't stop smiling. He quickly wrapped two caterpillar dolls and handed them over. Senju Banjian paid the money readily. Welcome to visit next time. The boss counted the bills in his hand with a smile, and his red hair was particularly eye-catching in the crowd. Sister Jili, this is for you. Senju Banjian smiled and stuffed a caterpillar doll into the purple-haired girl's arms. Without waiting for the other party to refuse, he continued to say. It's not my money anyway, so you can take it with confidence. That guy's money is a waste. You kid, you spend my money to pick up girls and you still make up stories about me. Take a slap from me. Hearing Senju Banjian's speech against Tiangang, Uchiha Jin on the side finally couldn't help it and came out to punish this kid who was not Hyuga but was better than Hyuga. The attacked Senju Itama wilted instantly when he saw Uchiha Jin, but the Senju clan was tough, and even if the body surrendered, the mouth could not be soft. You, a curly-haired baboon, don't go to work in broad daylight, and come to follow underage girls, it's really hentai. But when did I follow an underage girl? Uchiha Jin was confused by Senju Itama's words. I mean, you actually followed Sister Jili, no wonder you haven't had a girlfriend at the age of 30, it turns out you have this kind of fetish. Realizing that he had said the wrong thing, Senju Itama stuttered, his eyes rolled, and he pushed the purple-haired girl who was in a daze beside him out, and righteously condemned Uchiha Jin's behavior. It turns out that Mr. Jin is this kind of person. Chapter 86 AI Technology is really good. You are listening at novelfull.audio. My name is Uchiha Jili, I am 12 years old this year. My father died the year I was born, and my mother is just an ordinary housewife. 6 years ago, when I was doing errands to supplement the family income, I met a very interesting child and became good friends with her. Uchiha Jili heard his friend's explosive words, and a surprised expression appeared on his little face. He looked up at Uchiha In in front of him, with a difficult expression and a little hesitation in his tone. Mr. In, if you really have an idea, please be patient for a few years. I am now. It's all your fault, little kid, for talking nonsense. Holding the culprit who caused the misunderstanding, Uchiha Yin's veins on his head jumped and his hands clenched into fists, as if he wanted to make this kid look good. No, Jili, save me. Senju Itama, who had tried the iron fist sanction, naturally knew the taste of it. In a panic, he asked for help from his best friend. He never thought that the other party's gentle face was wearing an ambiguous smile, and his eyes narrowed with a faint black gas coming out. The relationship between Banjian and Mr. In is really harmonious. Holding his chin, Uchiha Jiji tilted his head and said with envy, letting a friend take the bullet has to pay a price. No. I shouldn't be so open with the evil Uchiha, all Uchiha are black when cut open. Senju Banjian looked at his most trusted friend in despair, and shed tears of regret. That kid is really unlucky, I finally got the fresh goods. The honest boy who was secretly flipping through the mosaic books in the dungeon wiped his nose. Little Jiji, I will take Banjian home first. Come to my house when you have time. I have prepared a lot of candy. The refreshed Uchiha In carried Senju Banjian who was foaming at the mouth, turned around and said to Uchiha Jiji who had been watching the show with a smile, hard-working, capable, and reasonable Xiao Jiji is simply Uchiha Yin's dream boy. The difference is obvious. Glancing at Senju Itama on his shoulder, this kid is a pure bastard. Okay, Mr. Stalker Silver. Seeing Uchiha Silver's confused face, the purple-cut black girl covered her mouth in surprise and said in a low voice with an apologetic look. No, I accidentally said what was in my heart. That it's not suitable to stay here for a long time. Uchiha Silver took Senju Itama back home, threw the unconscious kid on the bed, and left without looking back. Senju Itama, who was still in a coma, moved his ears, and quietly opened his eyes after hearing the door closing, revealing a complex feeling in his eyes. Uchiha Silver returned to the bedroom and began to prepare for tomorrow's task. He reached out and took out a bunch of equipment from the bag sent by the system, counted them one by one, and finally selected 3 pieces, and then took back the other equipment. These 3 sets should not be sold out in seconds, right? Uchiha Silver touched his chin and looked at the equipment he chose with satisfaction. On the left-hand side is the thorn vest he got for the first time, in the middle is the necklace Dragon Claw, and on the far right is a wooden armor that he got later. It's a pity that I can only wear 3 pieces, otherwise I can take off directly on the spot. The equipment produced by the system has a wear limit, and wearing more than 3 pieces will not work. Let's try the defense effect first. Uchiha-in wore a thorn vest as an inner armor, a wooden madman armor on the outside, and a dragon claw on his neck. After the equipment was completed, he felt the strong breath of life coming from the equipment, which doubled his sense of security. He came to the backyard and moved his body. He found that these equipment would not bring any burden to the body. It was light to wear. Just as he was warming up, the air in the backyard stagnated, and a familiar light curtain appeared out of thin air, bringing a strange figure. A new character was spawned. Uchiha-in raised his eyebrows, looked at the NPC spawned in front of him, and waited motionlessly for the other party to make a move. This NPC has long straight black hair, a cold and handsome face that is particularly pale, and the pupils of his eyes are not like those of ordinary people. Instead, they are long like snake pupils. His face looks seductive and weird with the embellishment of purple eyeshadow. This is the first time that a snake ant has appeared, and I don't know what skills I can learn. Uchiha-in, who recognized the identity of this NPC at a glance, thought happily that his current strength is crushing against ordinary NPCs. It has been a long time since he has fought against an equal opponent. Wuwukai. Kai Huang, okay, next time I will go directly to Yakai. The eyes of the spawned Orochimaru are dull and lifeless, just like the previous NPCs, but I don't know why he stayed in the same place for a long time after being spawned. Hey, it won't be a training dummy. Uchiha-in, who has been waiting for an attack for a long time, walked forward curiously, ready to check if there is anything wrong with this NPC. Just as the finger was about to touch the standing Orochimaru, the opponent's body suddenly paused, and the snake pupils in his eyes became bright. Uchiha-jin's heart was shocked and he took a few steps back, frowning and looking at Orochimaru who was beginning to make a seal. Uchiha-jin's heart flashed with some doubts. He clearly saw a flash of shy smile in the eyes of the NPC just now. Without time to think about it, Uchiha-jin found that a large shadow suddenly appeared in front of him and attacked him. Looking closely, it turned out to be countless poisonous snakes rushing like a tide. 10,000 snakes formation. One of Orochimaru's signature ninjutsu in the early stage, but the aggressive poisonous snakes are really not enough for Uchiha-jin now, but in terms of the degree of horror, it is far superior to others. Not very harmful, but extremely frightening. With the mentality of testing equipment, Uchiha-jin suppressed the discomfort in his heart, held his breath, raised his hands to protect his face, and faced the snake tide with his body, feeling the smelly and cold venomous snakes passing through his body. Uchiha-jin couldn't help but get goosebumps. However, he didn't feel his body being eaten by the venomous snakes. He took a glance and was surprised to find that the venomous snake's fangs couldn't even break his defense. A layer of light blue halo rose from the madman's armor, covering his whole body, and all the venomous fangs were blocked outside the halo. Now Uchiha-jin lowered his hands with confidence, waiting for the snake tide to end with a calm face. Orochimaru's 10,000 snakes formation lasted for 10 minutes before it ended. Looking at Orochimaru who put down his hand at the end of the snake tide, Uchiha-jin scratched his ears and said with a smile. That's it. That's it, but I don't know if the other party understood the mockery. I saw Orochimaru, who had just stopped, raised his hand again to seal, ready to score twice. Goodbye. Uchiha-jin, who had been annoyed enough, didn't want to have the same experience again. He condensed a long spear with bursts of lightning in his hand, pointed it at Orochimaru in the distance and spoke softly. Chidori-style divine spear. The lightning spear in his hand suddenly grew, and the next second it penetrated the chest of Orochimaru who had just opened his mouth to spit out a snake in the distance, before being recovered by the light curtain. Uchiha-jin vaguely saw the fallen Orochimaru showing a look of understanding. Is AI technology advancing so fast, that this is not the first time that the NPC that was spawned has strange performance? Uchiha-jin was confused. Could it be that this NPC has also started to use AI technology? Chapter 87, Remarks on the Launch. You are listening at novelfull.audio. First, I'd like to give you a kowtow. This book was originally written on a whim one night. I didn't expect that so many people would read it after persisting. As a newbie, I feel flattered. Speaking of the plot, the Warring States chapter was not so long in the outline. I wanted to write a dual timeline plot like Kiva, but the Warring States chapter couldn't be contained. Later, I let myself go and made a montage-style flashback. Unfortunately, the writing was not strong enough to make the viewing experience miserable, leaving many people confused. It's really a rookie and a playful one. As for the system of the erasure mechanism, it is just to cater to the old era version of the Warring States. It will be optimized in subsequent updates, so don't worry. Once again, I emphasize that the original owner and the protagonist are not the same person, and their personalities are also different. The original owner's personality is similar to the combination of Uchiha Shisui plus the young Obito. The protagonist Uchiha Jin is just an ordinary person who traveled through time and space. So this article is a fun article, and the dark and deep plot is all due to the original owner. Finally, thank you again for your long-term support. As my first book as a newbie, I will stick to it and finish it. Thank you so much. M. Chapter 88. Please stop bringing back memories. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kid, I'm going out for a few days on a mission, so don't run around. After breakfast, Uchiha Jin picked up his luggage and told Senju Itama, who was still cooking. If you encounter any trouble, just go find Quan Nai and I'll make a deal with him. I understand, I'm not a child anymore. Stop talking nonsense and go quickly. Seeing Uchiha Jin's hesitant look, Senju Itama, who was eating, raised his head, rolled his eyes at him, and urged. In case of uncertainty, it's important to save your life. Take this, just in case. Uchiha Jin, who was still a little worried, took out an hourglass-shaped golden pendant from his bag and handed it to Senju Itama to wear with him. Okay, it's so verbose. Taking this strange-shaped pendant, he could see the golden gravel flowing slowly in the hourglass in his hand. Senju Itama felt that this thing was very precious and should be worth a lot of money. Gold. This thing is for life-saving, don't even think about giving it to me in exchange for money. For the kid's safety, Uchiha Jin took great pains, and even gave this guy only one Zonya hourglass in stock to save his life. Zonya's hourglass, invincible for 3 minutes when health is less than 40%, can be triggered once per day. After settling in, Uchiha Jin quickly arrived at the meeting point agreed with Uchiha Taijima. From a distance, he saw his cousin waiting there. He was late and hurried forward to say hello. Cousin, I'm sorry, something has delayed me. It doesn't matter, I just arrived, here you go. Hearing Uchiha Jin's voice, Uchiha Taijima, who closed his eyes to rest, opened his eyes and said half a sentence when he was shocked and speechless by Uchiha Jin's appearance. Your look is a bit exaggerated. Uchiha Taijima commented with a strange look. Hey, that's good. I'll give you a set later. Patting the fanatic armor he was wearing, Uchiha Jin gave it to Uchiha Taijima with a proud look on his face. No need to. Uchiha Taijima refused. He must not go out dressed like this, which would bring shame to the Uchiha clan. Now that we're ready, let's go. Uchiha Taijima led the way, and Uchiha Jin followed closely behind him. The two of them rushed from day to night without stopping. When they passed a forest, Uchiha Taijima slowed down and signaled to stop. Choosing a hidden corner in the forest, the two began to rest. The sealing place is still some distance away from here. We will camp here tonight. Uchiha Taijima, who had already known the route by heart, arranged for Uchiha Jin. At this speed, we can reach our destination tomorrow. After that, he took out 2 pieces of dry food from his backpack, ready to relieve the hunger in his belly. Let's eat first. I've prepared a lot of good things. Uchiha Jin, who finally went out on a mission, was very well prepared. He took out various fresh ingredients from his backpack one after another, and in the end he even took out a big pot. You kid, do you think you're here for an outing? Go back and copy the ninja Sanjin 10,000 times. Looking at the excited Uchiha Jin with black lines on his face, Uchiha Taijima held his forehead and gritted his teeth and said. Isn't it? Uchiha Ginka couldn't say this sentence in his throat, otherwise he would have to be scolded by his cousin again. Then I'll put it away. It's a pity that I spent a lot of money to purchase these things. Somewhat disappointedly, he put away the ingredients on the ground and looked up to see Uchiha Taijima looking curiously at the iron pot he finally took out. What is this pot for? After studying for a long time, I still can't figure out what this weird-looking pot is used for. This, I specially made it for hot pot. Uchiha Jin picked up the custom-made mandarin duck pot on the ground and explained it to Uchiha Taijima. It turns out this is the hot pot that Izuna mentioned. After listening to the explanation, Uchiha Taijima nodded thoughtfully. He heard this thing mentioned by Izuna and Madara many times. Every time I mentioned it, Izuna had to wipe the saliva from the corner of his mouth. How about giving it a try? Seeing that his cousin was a little moved, Uchiha Jin asked tentatively. As he spoke, he mysteriously fumbled for a dark red thing that exuded a strange smell from his backpack. The secret extra spicy butter base I brought this time is absolutely delicious. Snort. After hearing Uchiha Jin's words, Uchiha Taijima's sharp eyes stared at him seriously, and his righteous gaze made him feel a little ashamed. Yes, how could he be so extravagant when doing missions? Being greedy for pleasure is a taboo for ninjas, but my cousin is very enlightened, or else he can be the leader of the clan. It's a bit cold at night, so I need to eat something spicy to drive away the cold. Just when Uchiha Jin was about to take back the hot pot, the serious-looking Uchiha Taijima nodded seriously and said. What are you doing standing around? Go get ready. No wonder someone can act differently when he is the leader of a clan. Taking the hot pot with a bang, Uchiha Jin began to prepare the outdoor hot pot dinner. Haha, no wonder Izuna, who has always been naughty, also praised this thing. It turns out the taste is so rich. Uchiha Taijima, who ate hot pot for the first time and was sucked by the spicy taste, showed off his rice while not forgetting to comment. What was added to this pot? Feeling the heat in his mouth, Uchiha Taijima was surprised to find that his chakra was also a little restless. Hey, good stuff. This time, the base material was mixed with Uchiha Jin, a birthday gift given to him by Izuna's cousin. The package was said to be a secret medicine from the Akimichi clan. The most powerful thing that can be eaten without making a sound is Uchiha Taijima, which most people would never bear to take out. The two of them were having a great time eating, but the two of them were miserable underground. Why are these two guys still eating? This taste. Ji Liang, who was lurking underground, swallowed his saliva. The stimulating and overbearing aroma of hot pot actually made his taste buds that had not been used for thousands of years begin to secrete liquid. People had to sigh at the terrifying power of hot pot. After we've had enough wine and food, it's time to talk. At this time, Uchiha Jin was holding the empty hot pot with eyes full of entanglement, but this scene had other meanings in Uchiha Taijima's eyes. I saw his eyes turning slightly, looking at Uchiha Jin who was holding the pot and hesitating to speak, and slowly opened his mouth. Ah-een, do you have something you want to tell me? No, don't get me wrong, I'm just worried about whether you can get up and go on your way tomorrow. Uchiha Taijima is worthy of being a ninja of the older generation. Adhering to the principle of not wasting, he actually drank all the hot pot soup base in one breath. Uchiha Jin, who knew the power of hot pot, was a little worried about his injuries. I couldn't stand it anymore and wanted to remind him, but I didn't know what to say. Sigh. Now that your body has returned to normal, I should confess some things to you. Looking at Uchiha Jin's tangled expression, Uchiha Taijima, who guessed that his memory seal had become loose, sighed. Why did the atmosphere suddenly become so heavy? Uchiha Jin looked at his cousin suspiciously. Could it be that the original owner had any shocking secrets? It all starts from that night 12 years ago. Stop it, it's too long and I really don't want to hear it. Can you tell me the result directly? Otherwise, with someone's writing skills, he can write 10 chapters of your paragraph. Uchiha Jin looked at Uchiha Taijima who was trapped in the whirlpool of memories with some sore teeth. Please don't remember the killing again. Chapter 89 Childhood Sweetheart vs the one who dropped from the sky. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I used to be so awesome. After listening to Uchiha Taijima's story, Uchiha Jin, who had just finished his third bag of sunflower seeds, had the same expression as a hamster that scared off its seeds. He knew from Uchiha Yao that the original owner had opened a mangekyo, but he didn't expect that there was such a long-forgotten secret. Now that my eyes have recovered, it's time to remove the seal in your brain. Uchiha Taijima turned his head, revealing his scarlet eyes. Uchiha Jin, who was sitting opposite him, could clearly sense the cold and deep power contained in these eyes. Why don't we talk about this later when we have time? That there was actually a memory sealed in his mind. If the original owner's consciousness awakened after the release, it would be hard to say whether it was the original owner or himself, an outsider, who would dominate the body. Don't worry, my Koto Amatsukami is painless, there are absolutely no sequelae. Thinking that Uchiha Jintoki was worried that the process of removing the seal would be painful, Uchiha Taijima patted his chest to guarantee, Koto Amatsukami, professional painless brainwashing for 30 years. After saying that, ignoring Uchiha Jin's expression of refusal, the three Magatama in his eyes instantly combined together, turning into a windmill-shaped enchanting pattern, and the majestic pupil power poured out. Uchiha Jin, who had no time to react, only felt a black screen in front of his eyes, and then fell into deep darkness. It's over, being attacked by 1 against 7 has developed a conditioned reflex, and when I saw the Mangekyo staring at me, I subconsciously gave up defense. In the darkness, Uchiha Jin turned over and sat up, complaining to himself in annoyance. Where is this? After self-examination, Uchiha Jin raised his head to observe the surrounding situation. There was a big door not far away from him. Feeling a summoning force, he walked forward to observe and found that the door was locked. The shabby lock hanging in front of the door was faintly glowing. Standing at the door, he could clearly sense that something was calling him from behind the door. He tried to pull the lock, but it didn't move at all. You don't even give me a key to unlock the seal. After a long time of not being able to open the door, he looked at the shabby lock in his hand speechlessly, thinking to himself. Has my cousin forgotten the procedure because he hasn't used his eyes for a long time? As his thoughts arose, a blood-red full moon rose in the dark space, decorated with windmill-shaped patterns, and then he heard a familiar voice. Sorry, I forgot to unlock the door for you. Uchiha Taijima urged his eyes with a little apology. As the windmill on the red moon in the space rotated, the cracks on the lock in Uchiha Yin's hand broke open. Crack. With a crisp crack, the whole lock broke into pieces, and the dusty door slowly opened. It is a blessing, not a disaster. If it is a disaster, it cannot be avoided. Uchiha Yin took a deep breath and strode into the world behind the door. A burst of strong light came, and Uchiha Yin, who stepped into the door, raised his hand to protect his eyes. He waited until the light faded before putting down his hand and squinting his eyes to check the situation inside. Where is the TV? This space is very simple, with a single sofa facing his back, and a TV in front of the sofa, which was playing the picture at this time. After hesitating for a while, Uchiha Yin still chose to go over to find out. You are finally here. The sudden voice scared Uchiha Yin, who was already holding a heart, and hurriedly looked around to find the source of the sound. After searching, he found that the whole space was empty. I'm here. Uchiha Yin, who heard the voice again, found that the person who was speaking was actually the character on TV. At this time, a familiar face in the picture made Uchiha Yin's hanging heart completely dead. Who are you? After calming down, Uchiha Jin looked at the person on TV and asked. I am the former Uchiha Jin, but don't worry, I can't go back. The slightly immature Uchiha Jin on TV smiled and explained to him. I don't have much time, this may be our last communication. The sadness on the immature Uchiha Jin's face flashed by, and he continued with a warm smile on his face. There is no point in explaining too much, I hope you can live well with my share. After listening to the original owner's neat explanation on TV, Uchiha Jin pursed his lips and asked. Do you have any other wishes? Well, then please take care of my good brothers, and Xiaoguang. For some reason, the picture on TV became intermittent, and the original owner's voice was unclear, but the name Xiaoguang was engraved in his heart. Beep. The TV made a light sound, and the original owner completely disappeared from the TV screen. Then, as if the TV channel was cut, the screen turned to a distant view of a house. With the appearance of a familiar family of three, the original owner's life began to appear in front of Uchiha Jin in this form. Do you remember? Seeing a glimmer in the eyes of the sluggish Uchiha Jin, Uchiha Taijima, who was sitting opposite and waiting, asked. Well, thank you, uncle. He watched TV series in the dark for several days and nights, but in reality, only a few minutes had passed. At this time, Uchiha Jin, who had digested the original owner's real memory, looked at the slightly tired Uchiha Taijima in front of him, and his mood was very complicated. Uchiha Taijima, the real behind-the-scenes white hand, now Uchiha Jin only has full respect for him. This uncle is really not recognized in vain. I have worked hard for you over the years, and you have suffered a lot of cold looks and suspicion from your tribe. Facing his nephew who had recovered his memory, Uchiha Taijima stood up and bowed deeply, full of apologies accumulated over the years. Uncle, don't say this again. It's all my own choice. Uchiha Jin sighed, supported Uchiha Taijima, and said. Look at me, I'm living a good life now. I'm in great shape and I eat deliciously. People have to look forward, they can't always live in memories, right? Every hardship I endured was for the sake of activating skill. Poison chicken soup. The operation made the somewhat jaded Uchiha Taijima feel energetic. For a moment, he was full of pride. He slapped his big hand on Uchiha Jin's shoulder, and his eyes were full of excitement. Don't just sort out information in the dungeon. When you return, you will be responsible for teaching Madara and Izuna's ideological qualities, so that they can become progressive Uchiha youths like you. Uchiha Jin quickly refused, immediately saying that he could shine at the grassroots level, and that it was his job to teach his younger brother, so there was no need to go to great lengths to promote him. A salary increase is possible. Midnight. Uchiha Jin tossed and turned and couldn't sleep. When he closed his eyes, all he could think of was the girl named Xiaoguang. The girl's bright glance and smile were deeply imprinted in his memory, making him upset and unable to sleep. The damn original owner failed this lovely child. What a scumbag, he spat, and kept criticizing the original owner for being irresponsible towards his feelings. Now this problem is placed in front of Uchiha Jin. How should he face Xiaoguang, who is about to be unblocked? Should he renew his relationship with her as the original owner, or should he continue to pretend to have amnesia and treat her coldly? Many thoughts came to his mind, making him a little confused for a while. Ding dang dang. Suddenly, Uchiha Jin, who was still struggling, heard the rapid footsteps outside, curiously poked his head out of the tent, and saw the panicked back of Uchiha Taijima retreating under the moonlight. What is uncle in a hurry for? Before Uchiha Jin could get up to check, his keen hearing allowed him to hear a crackling sound in the distance. Uchiha Jin, who guessed what had happened, lay back down with a look of disgust on his face and whispered. This is the consequence of underestimating my secret base. After a moment, Uchiha Taijima stood up from a hidden corner, feeling the burning tingling sensation in his back. He gritted his teeth and squatted to numb his legs, and walked with difficulty towards the camp. Right below the place where he had squatted just now, a black shadow that did not dare to move had its fist hardened. Uchiha Taijima, I want you to die. Chapter 90. Digging and Digging. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day. Set off. The pale-faced Uchiha Taijima waved his hand weakly, his body so thin that a gust of wind could blow him down. How about we take another day off? Looking at Uchiha Taijima who was close to collapse, Uchiha Jin gave a kind suggestion. This level of difficulty is not enough to defeat me. Uchiha Taijima kept his spirits up with a determined look on his face, and spoke plausibly. Gulu gulu. There was another noise in his stomach, and Uchiha Taijima, whose face turned green, gritted his teeth. Then let's rest for a while and start again later. Then he quickly left holding his stomach. TSK, 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 I hope it can still be used in the future. Uchiha Jin sent his sincere blessings with a look of regret. Hey, hey, Uchiha Jin. A familiar voice came from behind. He turned his head but found no one. Just when he suspected that he was hearing hallucinations. "I'm here," and I lowered my head and was surprised to find a black mushroom head emerging from the ground. "Why did you follow me here?" That the person who came was none other than the man next to Uchiha. Unexpectedly, he had been hiding beside him, and now he was taking advantage of Uchiha Taijima's absence to convey information to him. Looking at Heiburyukyu, Uchiha Jin frowned, not because he had any objection to him, but, "Do you smell like this?" That he pinched his nose and subconsciously took a few steps back. Uchiha Silver's eyes were filled with fear. "Did you pull your crotch?" "No." He was so angry that he almost pulled him up from the ground and gave this guy a big show. "Are you considered a 8-year-old, that even without pulling down his trouser pockets, his whole body can still emit such a strong smell, which makes people wonder if he has some weird quirks?" "Stop talking nonsense." Uchiha Jin could actually see an angry expression on a ball of black mud. "You did a good job, you actually came up with the idea of poisoning. With Uchiha Taijima's current state, we can easily control him." Suppressing the anger in his heart, Liang, who had a clear distinction between public and private affairs, changed the topic and praised Uchiha Jin's poisonous plan. "Ah. Hee. Regarding this matter, Uchiha Jin could only smile awkwardly. According to the division of responsibilities, Uchiha Taijima, who did not listen to the advice to show off the soup base, must bear 99% of the responsibility. "You don't have to worry. When Wuming is unsealed, the master will be there in person. By then, it will be easy to surround and kill Uchiha Taijima." Wang Liang encouraged Uchiha Jin confidently. "Lao Deng is actually coming too." Uchiha Jin was shocked when he heard the news. The TV series he watched for several days and nights was not in vain. The turning point in the original owner's life was caused by the blackened Uchiha Yao, and the dark guy in front of him played a major role. "Are you wearing the hairband the master gave you?" Gung Liang suddenly asked. "Always carry it with you." Thinking of the plain hairband that had been left in the bag to gather dust, Uchiha Jin replied. "That's good." As Gung Liang said, a look of pride flashed in his eyes. That headband was made by him. After the explanation was almost complete, Liang sneaked into the ground and disappeared. Uchiha Jin tried to use his senses to search for it, but found nothing. It seemed that Liang's hiding method was very superb and he could hide it from the search by perception. Uchiha Taijima arrived late at this time, dragging his body close to collapse, walking unsteadily, and trembling slightly when he spoke. Let's go." Uchiha Jin scratched his head a little guiltily. Although he only had 1% of the responsibility for this wave, he still had it, right? "Uncle, the weather is getting colder today. Put on this cloak. It will keep you warm." After rummaging around in the bag for a long time, Uchiha Jin took out a white cloak trimmed with gold. "I appreciate your kindness." Looking at the slightly exaggerated cloak that didn't match his own style of painting, Uchiha Taijima forced a smile and waved his hand in rejection. "Oh, you, uncle and nephew, please don't stick to those vulgar etiquette." He couldn't help but forcibly put it on Uchiha Taijima. Uchiha Taijima, who was about to refuse, felt his body light up and found that the negative buffs from the whole night had been wiped away. His whole body seemed to be full of strength again, and his sphincter muscles had returned to their normal state of strength. "This is." Uchiha Taijima touched the flamboyant cloak trimmed with gold in surprise. "Is this thing so effective? Old uncle, don't underestimate this cloak of mine. I bought it at a huge price from a traveling merchant in the land of craftsmen." Uchiha Jin pretended to be in pain. "It is said to be made by Qingmei from the land of craftsmen. It has the magical effect of restoring physical strength and chakra." Not bad. Uchiha Taijima's eyes changed instantly, and his gaze towards the cloak changed from disgust at the beginning to appreciation. "You have become sensible now, and you know how to honor your uncle. I will accept this cloak. Don't use these things to test veteran cadres in the future. It won't be an example next time." Looking at his old uncle who took the cloak as his own with peace of mind, countless questions rose in Uchiha Jin's head. I just want to lend you the cloak. Are you so shameless as a clan leader? Wearing the magic resistance cloak produced by the system, Uchiha Taijima walked in front with the wind at his feet and Uchiha Jin followed closely with his lips curled. The two of them drove for half a day, passed through a large canyon, and finally arrived at their destination. It's around here. There is a symbol of the Thousand Hands clan on the seal. Remember to pay attention. The two of them split up and conducted a carpet search within the destination. How do we search in such a large area? Uchiha Jin sighed as he looked at the endless forest in front of him. While Uchiha Taijima was away, he focused his eyes and his pupils turned white instantly. The Byakugan's vision range is stronger than the Sharingan, so it is more effective to search with it. With his Byakugan emitting a faint blue glow, Uchiha Jin sped through the forest at high speed, his eyes turning around, taking in everything around him at 360 degrees, but after a whole circle, the Byakugan did not find any suspicious traces, which made him wonder if the information was wrong. Just when he was about to give up, his left hand suddenly flashed a red light, and a scarlet mark appeared on the back of his hand. Looking at the flickering pattern on the back of his hand, Uchiha Jin almost forgot the existence of this thing. In the original owner's real memory, this mark was the pattern of Xiaoguang's kaleidoscope, and it was also the embodiment of her pupil technique, 8,000 spears, a magical skill of control plus bloodsucking. Are you going to take me to find Xiaoguang? Feeling something in his heart and feeling the heat on the back of his hand, Uchiha-in tried to communicate with the mark. As a result, as soon as he thought about it, the mark on the back of his hand began to flash wildly, as if responding to his words. Then let's go, you lead the way. Uchiha-in nodded, stretched out his left hand and turned it in a circle, and the dim mark flashed wildly when it pointed to a certain direction. It seems to be over there. With the route guidance, Uchiha-in followed the mark on the back of his hand and ran for several miles in one direction, and finally came to a flat plain area. From a distance, there was a large stone standing alone. The final destination of the mark was there. Uchiha-in did not doubt it, and flew over to grope on the big stone, and finally found an eroded and blurred mark at the bottom of the stone. The emblem of the Senju clan, it seems to be this. Uchiha Jin immediately transformed into a digger, took out a huge golden shovel from the system bag, and started digging at the big stone. As he dug, he couldn't help but hum. Digging and digging in the small garden. Chapter 91, When a stranger knocks on the door, just pretend you're not home. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A few meters below the boulder, there is a stone coffin hanging in the darkness. The coffin is covered with dense tadpole inscriptions. There is a faint light on the mysterious lines, making it seem to be out of the control of time, waiting quietly. The day we see the light of day again. Dig, 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 plant little seeds, bloom little flowers. The figure who had been lonely in the stone coffin for many years slowly raised her head from the small space. She had not heard any sound for a long time, but now she could vaguely hear the singing coming from above. It's so ugly. The space in the stone coffin was limited, and I couldn't even raise my hands to cover my ears. I had no choice but to close my scarlet eyes, silently blocking out the demonic singing, and murmuring viciously in my heart. If I knew who sang it, I would pull out his tongue. Digging, digging, digging in a very large garden, digging for very large seeds, Kate. What's the hard thing? Uchiha Jin was singing and digging very hard. Suddenly, his hand stopped while he was digging. The golden shovel was blocked by a hard object under the earth. Did you dig it? Surprised, Uchiha Jin opened his white eyes and scanned the hard objects underground, only to find that his field of vision was blocked, and a force distorted the space, making it difficult for him to see the objects below clearly. Why? I don't believe it. Uchiha Jin, who did not believe in evil, opened the power of his Byakugan to the maximum. With the infusion of chakra, his Byakugan slowly penetrated the shield of the space power, and he could vaguely see a stone coffin. It was still not clear. He had promised to be the strongest clairvoyant eye, but why couldn't this work? Uchiha Jin aroused a strange desire to win, and once again used all the chakra in his body, pouring it into Byakugan as if it was free. As the chakra increased, his eyes seemed to be bursting. He felt sore, but his vision became clearer and clearer. Suddenly, with the blessing of many powers in his body, Uchiha Jin's white eyes seemed to breaking through the shackles, a burst of blue light flashed, and the sour feeling just now was swept away. If Uchiha Jin could see his current eyes, he would find that his white eyes have changed drastically. The pure white eyes are now dyed with other colors, the bulbar conjunctiva is firmly occupied by black, and the pupils have turned into a fresh light blue. Color. How can I see colors? Blinking his eyes, which felt refreshed, Uchiha Jin found that the colors in his 360 degrees field of vision were restored, and it was no longer the previous simple X-ray perspective. I've heard that the Byakugan can evolve, but this doesn't seem to be the Tensigan, right? Taking out a mirror and observing his mutated eyes, Uchiha Jin touched his chin and felt the power contained in his eyes. It was not as powerful as the Tensigan of Otsutsuki Tonari in the original work. Forget it, business is important, go back and study this thing slowly. Taking back the mirror and using his current eyes to look at the hard object on the ground, Uchiha Jin actually penetrated the barrier of space and clearly saw a stone coffin filled with sealing incantations. If he pressed harder, there was still a stone coffin lying inside. A young girl lowered her head and couldn't see her face clearly. Tisk, it's just ordinary, but it's so white. Hey, hey, hey. Uchiha Jin, who was not used to his B ultrasound changing into color ultrasound, could see the girl in the stone coffin at a glance. When he reacted, he quickly closed his eyes and silently said that he who doesn't know is not guilty. Now that it was confirmed that the hard object in the ground was the sealed Xiaoguang, Uchiha Jin spat into the palm of his hand and raised the golden shovel again to dig hard, thinking of trying to rescue the girl as soon as possible. Dong dong. Dong. Are you bothering me? Who keeps knocking up there? That the demonic singing finally stopped, and the girl who had just breathed a sigh of relief heard a thumping sound on her head again. She was so angry that she clenched her fists and gritted her teeth, wishing she could rush out and give the guy above her a tsukimi meal. Dong dong dong. Is anyone at home? The community is sending warmth. Uchiha Jin, who finally dug out the whole stone coffin, wiped away the non-existent sweat, walked up and knocked on the door of the stone coffin a few times, and at the same time said politely, "Isn't this a fool?" The girl trapped in the stone coffin couldn't help but roll her eyes when she heard the unexplained remarks. She thought that she had been sealed for countless years. Have the people outside degraded to this point? But why does the voice sound familiar? The girl listened to the chattering voice outside, and for some reason it became more and more familiar. She felt like she knew someone she knew, but his voice in her memory was not as weak as this one. That I know you are at home. You have the ability to open the door. Don't hide in there and make no sound. No, 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 I definitely don't know him. The girl shook her head desperately, denying that she knew the owner of the voice. Ah-een, have you found it? Uchiha Jin, who was digging 3 feet into the ground, raised his head and saw a familiar figure on top of the deep hole he dug. He put the shovel back in his hand, turned over and jumped back to the ground, patted the dust on his body and said, "Old uncle, why did you come here?" "I dug out the seal." The person coming was Uchiha Taijima, who had been paddling. He looked solemn at this time, looked down at the stone coffin covered with incantations, frowned and said, "It's actually the seal of the Sarutobi clan, so that's a bit difficult to handle." The well-informed Uchiha Taijima recognized at a glance the emblem of the Sarutobi clan on the stone coffin, and also recognized that the incantations were unique to the Sarutobi clan. "Is it difficult?" Seeing Uchiha Taijima's face in embarrassment, Uchiha Jin raised his eyebrows. It seemed that the Sarutobi clan was not an ordinary family, as they could make their uncle feel embarrassed. Humph, a trifle. The conceited Uchiha Taijima would not be intimidated by such a small difficulty. He immediately opened his Sharingan to scan the entire stone coffin, trying to find the flaw in the seal. "Ha, I found it." Uchiha Taijima scanned for a long time, suddenly laughed, jumped down, and waved to Uchiha Jin to follow. Right here, the flaw in the seal of the Sarutobi clan. Uchiha Taijima finally locked onto a pattern like a little man based on the flow of chakra on the seal, pointed at it and said to Uchiha Jin. This emblem of the Sarutobi clan is the crack of the entire seal. As he said that, he covered it with his hand and manipulated the chakra to immerse it in the seal. After a while, Uchiha Taijima withdrew his hand and looked at the stone coffin with a complicated expression. It turned out to be a space seal. No wonder it can stagnate and seal the space of the stone coffin. Space seal. Uchiha Jin, who heard this term for the first time, raised his head curiously, looking at his uncle with a face full of curiosity, waiting for an explanation. The Sarutobi clan actually used the sealing technique to separate a time anchor point, locked the stone coffin that held Wuming in it, and exiled it to a space outside the time flow. It's the first time I've seen it too. After saying that, he didn't forget to add a sentence to pass the buck. Uchiha Jin was confused. It sounded like the function of a storage scroll, except that a scroll could not hold living things, while this seal could hold living people. So what is she like now, that being exiled outside of time? What exactly is the girl in the stone coffin going through? She is still in the state she was sealed in, and her mind should be. Uchiha Taijima was halfway through his words when he suddenly remembered that Uchiha Jin's memory had been restored, and he immediately took back the second half of the sentence. That means that Xiaoguang has been lying awake in a dark coffin for more than 10 years. Uchiha Jin was silent. Although he was not the original owner, he had watched the TV series for several days and nights. As a viewer, he had long been deeply touched by this girl named Xiaoguang. Even if it was not to fulfill the original owner's promise, he would rescue this poor girl. You old man, please step aside for a while, and let me show you my baby.